Hey guys, Gary the Gremlin here, but I can't deal with that now. Okay, I did this with the T-Rex a while back, and I'm doing it with Megs now. We're doing Megatron Mountain, and I'm just covering all the Megatrons I feel like talking about, really. First up, I'm covering all the War for Cybertron Megatrons, or at least the ones I got. That means revisiting Siege Megatron, who seems to be Hasbro's favorite mold ever. We're at 12 repaints of this thing, which is ridiculous. The Siege Sideswipe mold has been overused, but at least most times it's a different character and a different color. With Siege Megatron, you're just looking at a monotone wall of mainly gray baddies that are still all just Megatron. But in a vacuum, this figure is very good. I still think he should be considered as one of Hasbro's amazing Voyagers, firmly somewhere at A tier along probably Scourge, but still lower than Blaster. 'Cause though this figure looks the part, he's maybe a little half-baked. These wrists are really loose, and the forearm has a gaping war wound that goes all the way through his 5mm port. He's also got some very chunky, awkward feet that are bad for posing and even worse for dancing. And of course, he's from Siege, and he's a main character, so he looks like he was freshly crapped on by a bird. But there's greatness here too. I believe that despite these flaws, he still delivers the best G1 themed tank Megatron we've gotten so far. The black and gray are the perfect shades, and the occasional subtle splash of red or dark brown really gives him some depth. Because sculpt work is great and all, but if there isn't paint there to accentuate it, it'll be lost. Not that the sculpt work isn't amazing, it's so rich and greebly. He comes with a big sword and his fusion cannon. The fusion cannon is great, just a massive hunk of plastic not skimped out on at all. The sword is bizarre. Like a gun within a sword? I think there may be more here than meets the eye. And I love how scary he looks. This dude is not the Megatron you remember, being all silly and plotting schemes. This is like post-world domination Megs. Look at the seriously upset stoic brow. He looks mad that I'm even daring to review him. And just like Darth Vader, it's funny that he's so scary looking because despite all that, he's still just a guy with a panel of little bleepy bloopy buttons on his tum-tum. Alt mode is great. It's a mean little flat tank that really puts emphasis on his massive cannon. Overcompensation aside, this battle tank just looks so swish and sleek and fast looking. The only thing is where the feet poke out at the back. It really confuses me that they couldn't just make his ankles tilt a little bit farther so that the feet could fill in this gap right here. It solved both the feet sticking out and looking ugly and this gap. Alas, c'est la vie, and like the great Action Master Grimlock once said, don't be a negatron, be an optimist prime. Video's not over yet. Wake up. Quick repaint sidebar. The Shattered Glass Megatron is basically the exact same thing, except he comes with a couple more bits to dangle off the alt mode. It confuses me without a doubt that at the same time this figure came out, there was a Galvatron released, and the Shattered Glass Megatron design is based off Galvatron's design, but instead of using that new Galvatron mold, they used the Megatron mold and gave it accessories that make it look more like Galvatron. Okay, Hasbro. He looks alright, and the added accessories are pretty fun. He just feels even more half-baked than the origins of the mold did, and wait till you see the alt mode. Yeah, pulling a jet out of a tank without remolding anything seems a near impossible task, but I have to say, Hasbro kinda did it. This still looks more like a fan mode, but it services well enough, I suppose. The highlight of this release just really is the uniqueness of it, and the heroic colors. Onto the G2 repaint, some astute viewers may notice he's also been remolded a bit. Yep, this is the Earthrise version of this mold, made more to look, well, like an Earth vehicle. Robot mode is looking a little flatter and Toon-esque, with a lack of intense panel lining and instead some smoother surfaces. That green, purple, and orange color scheme is like an attack on the senses, and I'm always going to love it. This is the most colorful Megatron you'll see in this series, and probably ever. His head sculpt is also noticeably different, looking a lot sleepier and a lot less angry. Listen, killing the galaxy is a hard job, even Megatrons have their slumps. His accessories also come a bit different than the original mold, with a new version of the strange sword gun and a little serving platter. Yeah, Hasbro agreed with me from earlier in the video that the back of tank gap was dumb, so they included this little plank as a gap filler. And the feet are still just sticking out the back. The changes to the sword have made it less of a cool oddity and now just rendered it useless. It doesn't work as a sword or as a gun because how awkward it is. It does, however, look much better as the cannon on the tank mode, which I'd also say is an improvement over the Siege version. Look, I also love Cybertronian vehicles, just like you, but sometimes it feels so good to just have a normal-looking tank. A perfectly normal-looking tank that is the color of radioactive sludge. Rounding us out for today, Kingdom Megatron, but not that Kingdom Megatron, is certainly an interesting one. Sporting a decidedly darker color scheme than any of his predecessors, and also a more tune-accurate head sculpt as well. When the upcoming Studio Series 86 Megatron is revealed, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes more cues from this toy's design than the others. The backpack on none of the previous guys has bothered me, but on this tiny tyrant, I feel it's more obvious because it's basically 60% of what he is. He comes with a little teeny tiny version of himself, which is ironic that it's included on a little teeny tiny version of himself. Or maybe less so ironic and more fitting. Tank mode is cute enough, but still manages to have the feet sticking out the back. The turret looks very weird, just being a handgun stuffed in a tank barrel. So that's the baseline for Megatron. A couple different examples of how the modern mainline has interpreted him. Next week we'll return for someone a little more unusual, but for now, bye.